Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Tech Talks with a Tech Recruiter, and very excited about this week's episode. And with me, I have a very special guest, someone who is an expert JavaScript developer. So today's topic, we'll be speaking about JavaScript. Now, before I go ahead and introduce my guest, I'm just going to give everyone a heads up in terms of what we'll be discussing today. So a lot of exciting topics, and my guest Hari, who I will be introducing shortly, what we'll be speaking about is firstly, what is JavaScript? We're going to be covering what are the benefits, the features, and why is it such an exciting technology? Why is there such popularity in relation to JavaScript these days? What are the major JavaScript frameworks such as Angular, React, all these different frameworks that I know I've been hearing about as a recruiter. So Hari's going to be covering those. And he's also going to be speaking about just the day-to-day challenges that developers face, how to best and how he recommends developers face these challenges. He's going to be speaking about Agile versus Waterfall development. What's the differences? What are the benefits? Is one more better than the other? And of course, he's going to be speaking about various other challenges that developers experience. And also, we'll be providing advice to new graduates or those of you who are developers working with other technologies looking to make a switch into JavaScript. Hari's going to be sharing his thoughts on that. So just to give you some background before I officially introduce all of you to Hari. So Hari is a front-end developer and he's been in the field for 10 years. So he's a senior level developer and expert in his space. He describes himself as a developer who likes to get hands into anything related to JavaScript. He's very passionate about learning as well as teaching this area as well. Now, his primary skill set does revolve around the Angular framework. And that is, as most of you who are in the development space know, very much an in-demand front-end framework by Google. But Hari does not limit himself with his interest just on that, but tries other options as well, such as React, Vue, Node as well. He does definitely consider himself more so a JavaScript enthusiast who loves to learn and adapt to whatever new that comes across, right? He loves technical blogging. I'm going to be sharing with all of you all the links or the link to where you can find out more information about Hari, his blogging, his articles. He's very active in that space and very much involved. He puts posts on Medium. And also very exciting is he also runs his own Angular workshops and freelance training sessions. So if you're watching this, folks, on LinkedIn or YouTube, Instagram, all those links should be in either the description or the comments. So make sure you check it out. If you're a developer watching this, I'm sure you're going to be able to learn a lot of great information. So feel free to hit pause, get your notepad, get your pen and your pencil. Definitely, be prepared to take notes. And without further ado, Hari, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot for that, Dean. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Sounds good, Hari. So Hari, let's get right into it, right? And we kind of chatted about it before, but can you tell us what is JavaScript and what is it used for?
Yeah, sure. So it's a very interesting to say that JavaScript, although it's a programming language, but the purpose with which this language was initially built was quite different from which is used right now.
Ah, interesting.
So probably about 10 years ago, the concept of web was quite different, and the concept and the responsibilities of a web developer was totally different.
Right.
So initially what JavaScript was a toy language. So it was initially built to bring in some sort of dynamicity into an otherwise static page. So just to show or hide certain parts of your page, but then nothing more than that. But then what it was 10 years ago to what it is currently, building and powering huge applications from, say, Netflix, Facebook, Instagram. So it has been grown into a full-blown language powering front end as well as the back end. So it's something like, imagine you start building a bike which eventually became a rocket.
Wow. Okay.
So that's the evolution of the language in, say, 10 years.
Wow. Okay. And Hari, yourself, I'm assuming you started working with JavaScript back when it was very limited in its capabilities. Is that correct?
Yes. So when I initially started around the 2009, 2010, there was no framework, and the responsibility of a web developer was quite different from what it is right now. Right. So I get to see the point where it was just HTML, CSS, and some jQuery or JavaScript.
Right.
Life was pretty easy at that time because your responsibilities were pretty limited.
Yeah.
Then from that, over a period of, especially in the past 5 years, things has been spinning on its head like anything. New
Okay.
frameworks are coming, new workflows are coming. So it's an exciting field to be in.
Okay, okay, amazing. So, I mean, from what you're saying, Harry, obviously JavaScript started off as having very limited features and functionalities, maybe, but it has obviously evolved, and I'm assuming so has the role of the web developer as well in relation to someone who uses JavaScript.
Absolutely, and that is why this particular front end field, or in general, the front end or back end field is getting more exposure because there is more expected from the developer right now.
Okay, got it, got it. Okay, so Harry, can you tell us some of so what are like the primary benefits or capabilities and features possible with JavaScript as it is today? Like how advanced has it become? Like what are those attractive features and benefits with JavaScript, and also what can be done with JavaScript as well?
So if you take a step back, previously
Okay,
we had one developer doing the front end in JavaScript, and probably another developer doing the back end using, say, Java or a .NET. So
right.
that was the way which we used to build at those times. But then with JavaScript, what happened was that with this language itself, you can build both front end as well as the back end. So whatever you are trying to build, are you trying to build a website? You don't need any frameworks. You can purely use a vanilla JavaScript or a jQuery, and still you can go ahead and create websites if you want.
Mm,
But then if your requirement is web applications, mobile applications, desktop applications, VR applications, for anything and everything, there is a JavaScript framework for that right now. So you learn it once and you make use of the same language to write it everywhere.
wow. Okay.
So it gives you the flexibility to jump between a front end JavaScript framework or a back end JavaScript framework. So you are becoming a bit more in demand.
Okay, okay, understood. And Harry, I mean, so would it be accurate for me to say that JavaScript has basically evolved from like a non-structured scripting language into like a full-fledged like programming
Yes,
language?
absolutely.
Okay, okay. I mean, that's pretty unique, right? Like, does this happen a lot with scripting languages, or is JavaScript like very unique in that sense?
It's kind of odd to say that not the other languages may go through this kind of evolutions.
Yeah,
They may add features one on top of the other, but
right.
then this sort of spectrum you may not see it on other languages.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. And so, and I know you've kind of mentioned it already, Hari, but why is JavaScript experiencing a lot of popularity these days? I mean, I'm sure it's connected to what you're saying about, in terms of its features and all of that. But anything else you can add to that? Why is it becoming so popular?
Like I previously mentioned, JavaScript is the powerhouse of anything and everything that's been happening on the front end side these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
You take Netflix, you take Facebook, Instagram,
Mm,
website, web applications, whatever you build, the front end side is most probably going to be JavaScript.
mm,
So from a company's perspective, from a hiring perspective, it makes a lot of sense to hire a candidate who is good in JavaScript,
mm.
so that they have the flexibility to put him into anything, into multiple frameworks in both front end as well as back end. So obviously the popularity would be there,
Yeah.
and with so much logic being offloaded from a back end towards the front end, the role that front end plays in creating a web applications is huge.
Mm,
So you can have the best backend in the world, but then so long as your front end is not performing, your
yeah.
front end is not offering the user experience that a user desires these days, you, your application may not get the traction it requires.
Right.
And the moment that happens, he goes to your competitor.
Right.
And worst case, if your application crashes, it's not just the application that is crashing, your company's reputation goes along with that. So it requires a lot of skill set, a lot of practice and dedication to build expertise in certain frameworks. So
Okay. Okay. Makes
popularity
sense.
comes with that for sure.
Right. And what you made a very powerful point, because it could be the difference between someone using your product versus going to something else that's more more user friendly, and that side of things. Because at the end of the day, and myself as a non-technical person, all I see is the front end, right? So
Yes.
this is a very important point you brought up, and I can totally see that.
So just to give one more point, say if you go to an e-commerce website,
Mm-hmm.
and the moment you add things onto your cart, and the moment you are trying to purchase, for whatever reason, if that purchase didn't go through for a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
would you consider going back to a site, or would you go back to another site to see, oh, is there a better deal, is there a
Yeah.
better user experience?
Mm-hmm.
And for a site like say Amazon, where millions of people are logging and buying things simultaneously, there is a lot of dynamic stuff happening.
Yeah.
So especially if it is a Friday sale,
Yeah.
things would be going off like anything. So you will have to handle those behind the scenes. So
Wow.
your site has to perform.
Got it. Okay. And we I know you briefly mentioned before, I believe, some of the frameworks, Hari. So can you tell us, like, what are the major JavaScript frameworks, and why are these? I keep asking, why are they a big deal? But why are these frameworks as well also gaining a lot of popularity?
So every JavaScript framework it's more or less takes the concept and implements it in their own way.
Okay.
So some are huge, some are specific. So I'll take an example. So Angular is a framework. So whatever it is required to build an application, a web application, so you will get it as a package. But
Okay.
then the learning curve is a bit more steep.
Mm-hmm.
React is a library. So it may not have so much features, but then it's extremely focused on certain areas. So it's like you're going to that one little shop that sells the best thing in the town.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want that, don't go to a market, but then just go to that shop.
Right.
Vue is kind of a progressive. So Vue says, okay, if you want to build for smaller applications, I can do that. If you are trying to build for medium to larger also, I can still go ahead and support that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that Angular has the backing of Google, React has the backing of Facebook, but then Vue is still kind of the third option in that space.
Okay.
But
Got
then
it.
it's still competing to the top spot.
Right. Okay. And these frameworks, they're also primarily focused on the front end, Hari, or
In front end itself, I can say at least half a dozen or a dozen frameworks, but then these three are more or less what is being asked for in terms of a job scenario.
Mhm.
Node.js is something which is still a JavaScript framework, which is used for the backend.
Okay.
I don't say it as a framework, but then still it's built with JavaScript specifically for the backend side. So you can grow into a full stack developer just with JavaScript in both front end as well as the backend.
Interesting. Okay. And as I mentioned before, as a recruiter, Angular and React, like, these are especially very popular frameworks that from a recruiting standpoint we always hear about. So, like, why are these two frameworks in particular building up so much popularity?
Like I'm from the points which I've just told on the previous question,
Mm.
I had continue on that.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
Angular and React both stems from JavaScript. So JavaScript is the father of these frameworks.
Okay.
It's just that they take one concept called single page application and they give it their own spin. So
Mm.
Angular says I'm heavily opinionated. So I'll say things and you should write the things like I says.
Yeah.
Then only I'll work. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a lot of rules. So one good thing is that maybe you're an experienced developer or maybe a newbie,
Mm.
both has to adhere to these rules to write proper code.
Okay.
So, but then from a React's perspective, React says, I'm all JavaScript. I'm giving you the freedom to write the code in a way which you want,
Mm.
but then uh, there are not much rules to follow. So if you are trying to scale up in this language or in this so-called framework, it becomes a bit more easier when compared to Angular.
Okay.
So from a company's perspective, it becomes quite attractive to hire on these two languages.
Mm-hmm.
Since there is a lot of community support, there is a lot of features being added from Google as well as Facebook
Mm-hmm.
to these frameworks. These frameworks are here to stay. So
Okay.
you can be quite sure that okay, this is not going to die in the next 2 years or 3 years. This is going to evolve, but it's not going to get sidelined.
Right. It's what you're saying is it's here to stay.
It's here to stay, and
Okay.
more or less, it's a clash of the titans. You've got
Yeah.
Google on one side, you've got Facebook on one side.
Oh,
So
right.
there is, if you ask which is better, there is no specific answer. There is a huge fan base for both sides.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that sounds very exciting, right? I'm sure this will create that kind of competition where both sides make sure that it's continuing to evolve and adapt.
Yep. So if you're going more towards the enterprise level applications,
Mm-hmm.
if there is 100 developers working, 200 developers working, then probably Angular says, okay, I'm meant to be for the bigger ones.
Right.
So, but then from a React perspective, it can be used for small scale applications as well. So
Okay.
it's like picking and choosing based on your requirements. It's not just because since Angular is great or React is great, it's not just blindly following them, but then it basically depends on what you want to build.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Okay. So that being said, Hari, I mean, and feel free to, if you want to focus just strictly on JavaScript developers, feel free to do so. But my next question is, so what are like the major day-to-day challenges that developers face? And second part of the question, how do you suggest developers deal with these challenges?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
So I'll probably say from the developer side, from the front end developer perspective,
Sure.
in JavaScript there is a term called JavaScript fatigue.
JavaScript
It
fatigue.
basically means there are too many frameworks,
Mm,
too many workflows, too many combinations of things in JavaScript itself.
mm,
So eventually it becomes quite a challenge to pick and choose. And you've got to prioritize what you need to learn.
right.
Because every 5 months, 6 months, something new is coming and every company is running behind it.
Mm,
But then you need to prioritize, okay, what is it that you would like to end up doing in the next 2 years? So pick on that and focus on those sections only. So there is a lot of frameworks, there is a lot of libraries, there is a lot of tools. So it becomes a challenge to prioritize the top 3 or 4. Because if you take a job description, every job description is so different that
that's
you
right. Yeah.
sometimes you get confused. Okay, what should I learn to be in this field right now?
Yeah.
What can fetch me a job? So my suggestion to deal with these kind of challenges is that be strong in your fundamentals.
Mm,
Frameworks change, but then fundamentals remains the same. So be aware of what's happening around you. Be proactive in learning those, and always be active in suggesting those to your project or a team, so that from a project perspective they get the benefit, and from a developer's perspective you also get that developer experience of using the new tools and workflows, which can help save a lot of time and effort.
okay. Understood. I mean, that seems
and
like, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
and the most important point, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Okay. Okay. Sounds
That way
good.
you learn a lot more.
Right. Okay. I mean, those are two. I mean, those are very. I mean, makes a lot of sense. So, for those of you watching, so how are you saying? Number one, be strong in your fundamentals, and number two, don't be afraid to make mistakes. So that makes perfect sense. I think for any field as well. Like, and obviously, Hari is speaking about developers, but great advice, Hari. Now, can you briefly speak about agile versus waterfall development? I'm sure, given that you've been in the industry, I mean, you're at a senior level in your career. You've experienced both types of environments or methodologies. What are they, and like what is the difference? Like, do you really is agile really as a big deal as it is these days, or like can you share some thoughts about that?
For this question, I'd like to take it on a different angle.
Okay, sure.
So, I'm a storyteller as well.
Okay.
So it becomes quite interesting when you tell a story and convey a message through that.
Okay.
So especially when it comes to Agile and Waterfall, I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
So there was a requirement to build a bike. Okay.
Okay.
And so you went to the client gave you a requirement that, okay, it should have two wheels, four gears, and it should accommodate one person, and it should be able to ride on rough terrains.
Mm.
So fine, the team went and collected all the requirements, came back, took 2 full months to build on that requirement, but then the client is yet to see the final output. So whenever he asks, he says, fine, we are doing good, we'll definitely deliver in 2 months. So
Mm.
after the 2 months, mind that the requirement is initially freezed, so nothing is going to change. So the team is continuously working on that set of fixed requirements. So after 2 months, when it's time to reveal the product, the team revealed the product and the client says, no, this is not what I expected.
Mm.
The team showed a bike, something like a Harley Davidson, but the client was expecting a mountain bike.
Okay.
So long as the client doesn't see what's happening and he doesn't get a chance to provide his feedback on an iterative manner, there is a lot of rework that needs to happen towards the end, and the cost of fixing those becomes much more expensive.
Mm.
So
Okay.
that's what a waterfall model is like. The requirements are freezed,
Mm-hmm.
and if something goes wrong, you will have to pay a heavy price to fix those towards the end.
Okay.
But then from an agile model, what happens is you take a fixed set of smaller requirements, you split them into smaller sprints. So after every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, probably 2 weeks for most of the projects, so there will be deliverables at the end of 2 weeks.
Okay.
So after 2 weeks, you will present whatever is your progress. So the client is ready to see, okay, you're doing good, or you can make certain changes on that. So you
Mm.
can get iterative feedbacks on whatever you are building. And so that if there is extra requirements that needs to be accommodated on the fly, that's still possible on Agile.
Right.
So you are continuously iterating and making your product better.
Got it. Okay. And that's a great example. And actually, I remember this one time I was speaking with a candidate, and they described it in an interesting, like he made an interesting observation. He said, "Agile is not just a methodology; it's a mindset." Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, it's a mindset.
Uh,
So long as the older mindset was, you give me a fixed requirements, I'll
right.
give it and deliver to you.
Right.
But then that's just a service.
Yeah.
What client expect is not just somebody who they hires and just do the work and leave,
Mm.
but then they expect to collaborate. They
Yeah.
expect to provide more feedbacks and more value for money. So
Mm.
it's not just the, okay, this is your product mindset, but then you need to be with them and say, how can we make it better?
Mm.
So it's definitely a shift on the mindset.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. Now, Hari, obviously, as a developer, the most developers will be working in partnership with other teams. So, what are some of the challenges you feel developers face in general working in partnership with those various teams, both development, non-development, IT, non-IT, when completing a project? And how do you suggest developers navigate those challenges?
Um, Especially from if you're working on a larger company,
Mhm.
chances are that project may may lie around more than one countries and more than one time zone. So
Yeah.
you might be collaborating with a team, one sitting in India, one sitting in US, one sitting in UK. So it's a multinational collaborative effort.
Right.
So, and you will also be working on various time zones, and more importantly, various cultures.
Right.
So the way you communicate on the phone, the way you write your emails, everything becomes more important. It's not just technical skills that help. You'll have to have that full package with you.
Hmm.
So in order to be effectively communicating with your client and take the project forward, you need to have much more than the technical aspects also. That's why in the time of an interview, it's not just your technical skills that's been tested.
Hmm.
The cultural fit is as important as your technical skills these days. So wherever you go for an interview, there is a behavioral round towards the end where they'll give you these scenarios. Okay, you are into a project where the client is saying this. How do you tackle this? So they will put you in certain scenarios and see how you are responding. So you might be the best coder in the world, but then so long as you are not a team player, it
Yeah.
still wouldn't benefit for the company.
Okay.
So it's much more important to be a team player. And when it comes to the non-IT aspect, sometimes you need to work on, say, virtual machines. You won't be getting your laptops, so you need to sign into a remote machine and you'd be working from that. Sometimes you will have to sit on areas where your mobiles are not allowed. You've got a lot of restrictions. You don't have admin access because the client doesn't want to have admin access on those machines.
Mhm.
So those are challenges that you need. So because of that, you may not be able to run certain things on your machine.
Right.
Certain things needs admin access. For that, you will have to raise a lot of requests, wait for a lot of time, call up the IT support and say, okay, when is this thing getting resolved? So you will have to constantly do that follow up to get these things done. It's not just your project and your stuff that is on question. So there is a
Okay.
lot of other factors which is getting involved in between.
Right. So from what you're saying, Hari, it's not just about your technical ability. You also have to be good with and able to navigate these situations with people. So
Yeah.
you need to have the soft skills as well.
Yeah, and from the challenges perspective, especially from the developer side, always keep asking the right questions.
Mm.
And more importantly, learn to say no professionally.
Mm.
And always commit on things which is possible. Convey those things to your managers on what is possible and what is not. And always set a realistic expectations. Sometimes the manager or the BA or the client may not be understanding the full picture. It's the developer who is developing, so he knows what is possible and what is not.
Mm.
So he should be in a position to say, boss, this is possible within this time frame, or else you give me another extra 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's the steering is with you, so you need to steer it in a way that makes sense.
Got it. Fantastic advice, Hari. Really appreciate that. I'm sure a lot of you watching will benefit from that advice. Now, Hari, what are some of the trends that you can share with us regarding JavaScript? You know, as someone in the field, who's coding with JavaScript, anything you can share with us regarding what to expect in moving forward in terms of the technology itself?
In terms of technology, the current trend, which what I see, especially in the Toronto sector, is going full stack.
Mm.
So you cannot just be a one shop pony. You can be good in front end or you can be good in one specific framework, but then that doesn't help much. If you take the long run, there is mean stack, MERN stack, MEVN stack, Jam stack.
Mm.
So there is half a dozen stack. So if you take a job description, Java with Angular, .NET with Angular, Java with Vue, .NET with Vue, Java with PHP, Angular node, React node, Vue node. So there is so much combinations in terms of front end as well as back end. So the trend is definitely going towards full stack. So every companies think in a way that, okay, we don't just want developers who is good in one piece, but then we are looking for smarter developers who can handle both.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely the trend is more towards a full stack side.
Okay.
And also from an interview perspective also, it's not just your framework that is getting tested. So it's your JavaScript skills and in general programming logic that is getting tested. So the trend is not going framework side because frameworks can change,
Mm.
but then the trend is always testing your candidates basic programming fundamentals so that the company has got a certain amount of assurance that, okay, if we hire this guy, he should be able to work across whatever he's been put into.
Okay, got it. And this goes back to what you mentioned before. I mean, the fundamentals, right? That's so important.
Yes, it is what decides your career.
Mm.
So you cannot hang on to a framework for 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
So frameworks will change, new things will come. That's what happens to the previous version of Angular. There was an older framework called Angular JS. It was popular for about 3 to 4 years,
Mm.
but then it had its good time. Now that it has subsided and new frameworks has come, the older developers is now they have to either make a choice of moving to a different framework or to learn the new Angular.
Right.
So so long as your fundamentals is not strong, then you will struggle when you are moving towards a newer framework.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. So going from there, Hari, I mean, what is your advice to new graduates as well as developers looking to make that, maybe developers who are working with a different languages right now, who are making to make that transition into JavaScript. So what's your advice to new graduates and those such developers on how to best approach and get into the field of JavaScript development?
I'll say from three different perspectives.
Okay.
So from an interview perspective, like I've told at least 3 times before, focus on fundamentals.
Fundamentals, yeah.
That would be heavily tested. So I've been to interviews wherein there was not even one question which was asked for that framework. And 100% of the questions was in general JavaScript, in general coding, a lot of data structure algorithm questions. That is one of the other trends that I see, especially in the tech arena in Toronto. You go to a startup, you go to an above medium sized company, all test your data structure algorithm fundamentals, hands-on coding, whiteboard coding. So these are not just asked in Amazon or Google these days. Every other company is also doing the same to weed out the average candidate to the better ones. So focus on your fundamentals. Framework can fetch you one job, but then your fundamentals is what which decides your career mileage.
Right.
So, and don't be a single shot pony. So that's from the interview perspective. From a job search or a career perspective, build networks because referrals definitely help. So always make sure to to connect with the right people in the LinkedIn, have cordial relationship, understand what's happening in their field, seek help when needed, and find good mentors. It always help.
Right.
So you will have to first build a good rapport with them and utilize their experience to understand, okay, what is it that's needed to be in their position. Seek help. And from a profile perspective, you are entering into a heavily competitive market. For each job opening, there is 100 plus profiles, 50 plus eligible candidates. So how do you make sure that your profile is not filtered when it comes to the last five? Especially from a beginner's perspective, you are always competing with somebody who's already experienced.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you stand out from the crowd? You will have to have portfolios. You will have to have a strong LinkedIn profile. You will have to have a good GitHub repo showing off your coding skills and whatever you have built. Ask recommendations from your teammates on LinkedIn. Testimonials definitely helps. And from a starter's perspective, this is what I see most often. People try to stuff their resumes with a lot of skill set, but then don't be a jack of all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially from I've seen uh, the job description for 2 to 3 year beginners. It's not that much. You don't need to fill it up with 10 different stacks to show that okay, you know everything. It goes the other way. Fill it with enough, just enough required, whatever it is required, but then show enough expertise on that. Focus on building expertise on a few key areas. The rest you will anyway learn on the fly when you are on a project.
Got it.
So last but not the least, build. The more you build, the better you become. Have enough problems to discuss in an interview. Face enough challenges so that you are no longer scared of challenges. So you cannot definitely check every single requirements on the JD anyways. So don't focus on filling all those individual questions in the job descriptions, but then focus on what matters the most. So that would be my 3 different perspectives from an interview, a job search, as well as a profile.
Awesome. Love that advice, folks. Hari is not sugarcoating anything. Like, this is real advice in the real world, practical experience. So take heed from what Harry is saying, right? Like it's and you need to implement this into your job search strategy, whether you're a new graduate or if you're a developer looking to make that move into JavaScript development. So love that advice, Hari. So Hari, without further ado, I mean, can you tell us more, because you're active on like you blog and you write articles. Can you tell us more about your blog, like where people can follow you? I will be sharing the link below, folks, for those of you watching, if you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever else. But can you tell us more about your blog, Hari? Like what type of topics do you write about, and what can people expect?
I've been writing. Previously, I used to write on different platforms, but then right now I'm in the process of collaborating everything under one roof.
Right.
So my website is harihere.com. So I'm trying to take everything into that domain piece by piece. So I'm in the process of taking my older topics and putting it there as well.
Okay.
And the better place to connect would be LinkedIn and Medium.
Okay, great.
So I'm passionate about writing anything in JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
So especially framework specific. I'm planning a few topics on data structures and algorithms.
Nice. Okay.
Which is more or less what every developer wants, irrespective of being a front-end developer or a back-end developer. The moment you go for an interview, this is more or less a sure shot question. So I've been preparing a few articles on that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome, excellent. Yeah, so folks, if you're watching, again, I'm gonna put the link to Harry's blog and website in the comments and also in the description. Again, whether you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn, make sure you check it out. So obviously, Harry is in the process of centralizing all that information, but sounds like it's going to be a lot of great information. I will try to read it, although I think that it might not. I won't understand anything. But
it would be a bit technical. So,
yeah.
But then I appreciate if you share it.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So folks, make sure if you're in the development space, make sure you follow his blog, and or even if you have an interest in learning more, right? So definitely check that out. Also, Hari, you mentioned that you provide Angular workshops and freelance training sessions. Can you tell us more about those, and like how can people who are interested in those, like how can they get involved in that or sign up?
I was previously working as a teaching assistant in Udemy for one of the biggest Angular courses.
Nice.
So
Okay.
I was working with that author for a year or so.
Right.
And I am pretty much passionate about teaching because I get to mold careers. So I love doing that.
Right.
So right now I'm taking weekend classes for a few people in the community. Nice. And I've created my own curriculum, which I usually complete in say 1 to 2 months. Every Saturdays, I'll take it in smaller pieces.
Right.
So the curriculum is there in my site. So if there is anyone who is interested, they can go take a look at that.
Awesome. Oh, that's awesome. So folks, if you're, definitely check out Hari's website, right? I mean, obviously he's doing a lot and giving a lot back to the development community and in terms of even these workshops, right? So if you're interested, make sure you check it out. And other than that, Hari, I mean, what's the best place for people to connect with you? Like, are you open to connecting with new people on LinkedIn, or like, how should people, connect with you other than your website?
Absolutely. LinkedIn would be the best place because I am totally active in LinkedIn every single day.
Awesome. Sounds good. Hari, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this discussion. We have gone over time. I hope I haven't cut into your personal schedule. I know you're a busy guy, but thank you so much. Folks, definitely put in the comments and thank Hari for his time as well. I'm sure a lot of you learned a lot of very useful information, and I'm confident that this will help you in your career. Whether you're a JavaScript developer already, maybe you're looking to evolve, or even if you're from another space looking to get into JavaScript development. Hari, thank you so much again for your time. It's been a pleasure. And
it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome, Hari. And I'm very, very appreciative, and I'm sure my viewers will learn a lot from this session.
I hope so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.